for coming to this presentation, Applying to Colleges and Universities in the United States. My name is Jose Flores, and this event has been sponsored by King's Colleges and EDU College Counselors. So let's talk a little bit about the U.S. higher educational system. There are over 4,000 colleges and universities in the United States. Each of them are very different from the others. Almost all students in the U.S. have an opportunity to attend a college. That's right. That means that if you are a weak student, you can go to a college or a university. There is no nationally governed, standardized higher educational system in the U.S. Each individual institution sets its own guidelines, though there are accrediting bodies, but there still isn't any standardized system. Now, if you caught what I said at the beginning, I kind of used the term college and university in the same way. And that's a fact in the United States. That means that basically a student who attends a college is considered to be the same as a student who attends a university. So there is really no sort of system in place which says, like there is abroad, if you're a college or a high school. In the United States, college does not mean high school. It means the same as a university. Now, the difference here is a college might be small, a university might be big. University might offer PhD programs and master's programs, but some colleges also offer master's programs and sometimes apply for PhD programs as well. So, truthfully, when we're using the term colleges and university, for us, it really means the same. So, there are three types of degree programs in the United States. 2-year associate degree granting, usually known to exist in community colleges. 4-year degree granting institutions, the infamous liberal arts, 4-year bachelor's degree, bachelor's of science degrees. And technical colleges that tend to be mostly for profit, might be specifically for radiology, certificate programs, and so forth. So as you are looking at the U.S. higher educational system, I would put them in these three buckets. However, I'm going to confuse you a little bit. You can't assume that one doesn't do what the other one does, because in the case of 4-year degree granting institutions, they can in fact also grant 2-year degrees. They can grant associate degrees as well. So it gets a little bit confusing as you're looking at the different degrees that are offered in our educational system and how they're offered, but there are in fact a lot of options. There are over 4,000 of these higher educational institutions. When it comes to the U.S. higher educational system, a statement that we hear a lot is that the U.S. college experience goes well beyond the classroom. It incorporates things like campus life and activities. What does that really mean? I think it's one of the most spectacular things about our educational system here in the United States, because what it really means is that we try to encourage our students to be involved. To be involved in campus life could be being captain of the soccer team. To be involved in campus life can be a president of a club, of the student government. To be involved in activities means community service. It is something that we believe in the United States to be very important. We need to instill in our young people the ability to lead, the ability to take on responsibility, the ability to work with others. And these opportunities that they have on college campuses allows them to experience that part in their higher education. So let's talk a little bit about the concept of a public and a private institution. Public institutions in the United States tend to be institutions that are financed by the state in which they're located. They also tend to be lower in price for those who are residents of the state, and that does in fact mean that if the institution's in New Jersey and you live in Connecticut, that you're going to be paying a higher fee coming from Connecticut. Same thing as coming from abroad as an international student. So there are higher fees. Then let's talk a little bit about this sort of concept of the private school system. Private schools are largely financed by tuition, endowments, a bank account that they own that, and this can be anywhere between 50 to 100, $1 billion. I've seen private institutions go up even that high. Tuition costs for private institutions usually are higher. However, they don't really get into, at least many of them don't get into this sort of in-state, out-of-state tuition. You have to be very careful. Don't assume that if you're going to a public school, it's just going to be inexpensive. In some cases, public schools can also be very expensive and very competitive to go into, the same as private schools. So as you're looking at these two types of systems, it's very important that you understand that there are in fact differences, but there are also some similarities. I don't see one as better than the other. There are pluses and minuses in being in both types of educational systems. One thing to point out is that although you might be applying to the public school system, and there might be more than one university or college in the public system in that state, that the admissions requirements might in fact be different for each individual institution in the public system. So it's really not a standard admissions process. And for the concept of some liberal arts colleges, and they're tend to be private in many cases, you might be applying directly to the institution as a whole. At the institution, you officially declare your major or minor, because in our educational system, you can follow more than one discipline, but you're applying in most cases as a whole into the liberal arts type of educational system. By the way, I am a big believer in the liberal arts system, and if you want my sort of elevator speech on the liberal arts system, simply I would just tell you that it prepares students to concentrate in an academic discipline as well as developing their writing, reading, presentation skills, things that are necessary across all industries. So I believe that not only should you be a business major, but you should be the business major who's a good writer and who could speak and do great mathematics. So let's talk a little bit about how these systems work throughout a calendar year. Most colleges and universities have a 9-month academic system from August or September to May or June. Then they offer condensed programs during the summer. There are 3 basic variations of this 9-month academic term system. Basically, the standard one tends to be 2 terms of equal length for the academic calendar. Then there are others that do 3 terms, which is called a trimester system, and they're also an equal length. And then it gets a little bit more complicated because some folks do 4 and 4 and 1, or 4, 1 and 4, where there are 2 4-month semesters and 1-month term wherein students take 1 course. Usually there are breaks in between terms, and of course there are, like I mentioned, summer terms available for students, and sometimes even winter terms. They tend to be condensed, so I would not recommend to take an organic chemistry course during the summer, because it would mean that you most likely have to take that in 1 month. However, there are other institutions that actually work year-round, so your semester-based system is literally year-round. You get out earlier, you're not doing a 4-year, you're not spending 4 years at the institution, and the reason why most students spend 4 years in the United States is because they take their breaks. If you don't take your break, I know of an institution that offers a program in 2 years and 8 months, which is, but you have to go throughout the summers as well. Let's focus on applying to colleges and universities. Obviously, if you're listening to this presentation, you have a few more options than most students do in the United States. You have, number one, you have the opportunity to learn English in King's colleges, and then afterwards use the counseling services at King's colleges to apply to a college or university, which are serviced through EDU college counselors. Or you might join a pathway program where you are learning English and taking some academic coursework at that institution, college, university level coursework that will transfer in to another college or university. Or you might be that student who has done well and done well in their TOEFL and academically is really prepared to be directly placed into an institution. I divide this into two categories, undergraduate and graduate. Undergraduate representing those bachelor's degrees, those bachelor's of science, bachelor's of arts, and graduate programs really representing those master's programs. There are different requirements between one and the other, and usually for graduate programs, if an institution requires an 80 TOEFL on the undergraduate level, usually that's anywhere between 90 and 100 on the graduate level. And there are other examinations, which you folks probably know about. On the graduate level, there's the GREs, the GMATs, the MCATs, and on the undergraduate level, the requirements are SATs, ACTs, and TOEFLs. You want to be part of the King's College's programs because they have an array of partner schools where they are recommending students to go to. They have learned the admissions requirements for these institutions and understand how to have these young people or yourself apply to these higher educational institutions. So it's an advantage because you have folks who have already built a relationship with the higher educational institutions to apply to and understand how to apply to these schools.